Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Ula.
And I'm Bree.
We are talking about the 5 things every yoga teacher needs to hear in 2026. The first thing I want to ask you about is nervous system literacy as the new alignment. I'm just curious what you would think students are expecting from us as yoga teachers this year.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to start off. Nervous system literacy is the new alignment. Anybody who's done yoga and taught yoga in the last decade, I want to say at around the beginning of the 2010s was when it was really, really, really alignment, if not a little bit before then. And it was all about, this is the alignment, that's the right alignment. It's interesting to see how that shifted. And here we are in 2026. And yeah, we're not caring about alignment quite in the same way, because I think that attention to detail, that kind of an old school way of looking at alignment, like the knee should always over be the ankle, and that's the only way to do it, and the arm should always be at this height. Like that goes into micromanaging territory. And I think it shows up in people's nervous systems as performance and pressure a little bit. And so if people ever tuned into their bodies in that micromanaging alignment detailed, this is the only way your body should go, it doesn't really create ease, I find. And yes, alignment is helpful. And there are some things and cues that we should say, but that's a bigger conversation that we have had in other episodes. Ula will link those at the bottom to go check out the other longer in-depth things about alignment and anatomy and cues. But I think it's this awareness of nervous system first, body second. We could change it to, because we are all a nervous system. Our nervous system is our interface with our body and the world. And when we can be in tune with what our nervous system has to tell us, and when we can do things that are supportive for our nervous system, it can create more ease in the body. And ideally, as a yoga teacher, I want people to feel pretty easeful in my classes, even if we're doing something hard, even if we're doing a challenging vinyasa flow or something, right? Can we do it in a way that feels easeful? So I think the nervous system support means that we're moving away from performative practices, from top-down teacher style of teaching. Like, I'm the teacher, I know what's best for you, therefore I'm going to tell you what to do. So the flip side, I think, of nervous system literacy is invitational teaching, setting up a space where people feel comfortable, having permission that people can also do what feels right for them. Or if they don't know what's right for them, you as the teacher gives them a buffet of options rather than this is the one and only option. So that reduces overwhelm. It builds capacity and less intensity in a sustainable way. So I love it. The more that we are bringing nervous system first, body second, I think that's a huge, huge game changer.
Point number 2. So we talked about as yoga teachers, we are curating an experience, not choreography. So I can remember back in the day, it was about perfect sequences and these like almost dancerly clever transition and this building to the peak poses. So okay, I'm good letting that go. I'm so good. What are we doing in 2026?
I think you can still have choreography, can feel fun. I love experience as the main focus. What's the experience? And I don't necessarily mean, okay, so what cool playlist am I doing, and that kind of thing. That could be part of it if that's what you're into. But the experience is the big picture. Like, what's the container? And choreography could be part of that. But it's that choreography. I think what we're naming is the choreography when it comes to, well, here's the set sequence that I'm never going to deviate from, that I'm never going to change or adapt regardless of who's in my class. I think that's choreography. I think that's the old teaching way, that some of these systems where, again, yeah, it's always these poses no matter who's coming. And we're not going to offer you anything different. Everybody has to conform to that. So that's what we mean when we say choreography. And so luckily, the evolution here, especially going into 2026 or 2027 for the future onwards, is the experience of being in a classroom where I can show up as a student and I feel comfortable as I am. I feel comfortable in my ratty old sweatpants and t-shirt rather than some brand name expensive yoga outfit. Where I feel comfortable to go, actually, this doesn't feel right for my body. Can you give me another option, please, teacher? And the teacher goes, yeah, cool, great. You know what? I totally understand. Let's try this. So it's a little bit similar to number one, right? Nervous system literacy is the new alignment. Part of that nervous system first, body second, is that. So, what's an experience that I can do as a teacher to create a nervous system supportive place? And that's everything how we named also like what's your internal experience over external shapes, right? And it's not just about acrobatics. How do you feel? Let's have the core of this practice of yoga show up more through the asana than it just being asana. So I hope that makes sense. Like the deeper reflective practices of yoga can come through and work its magic when we're in that experiential classroom rather than a choreography where we're all just going into the same shapes and doing the same thing. So I think that's a big, big one.
Yeah, before I jump into the next one, maybe I'll try to remember to link in the notes. I think we have an episode about like boring classes are good for nervous systems. So when I think of like clever transitions, perfect sequences, and peak poses as a teacher, I think it's like lifting that weight off as well. You don't have to have every class a new clever transition.
Very good
Um,
point.
Students do appreciate knowing what they're doing sometimes, and sometimes simplicity and air quotes boring is okay. So, okay, number 3, we are a translator, we're not technicians. So, what do students want from us as translators in 2026?
I think the technician goes along with that same thing from number 2 is just choreography. I think a choreography side of things is like, well, now I'm the technician because I have to carve a great sequence. And just like Ula mentioned in the last points, I have to have it shiny and fun and different every time. And actually, boring is better. And repetition, because here we were talking about like, well, okay, I can't like, oh, those things that are always the same no matter what. When we say boring is better, that's not what we mean. Like you can actually still teach a lot of the same poses, but give the experience, right? Give the options, make it more inclusive and encouraging for people. So the technician may not do that. A technician style teacher is again that I'm spouting my script that I learned in my teacher training. I'm cueing the ways that I was taught for one certain body type in my teacher training. Maybe I wasn't taught various cues for various bodies. And so that's again that repetition. I'm a technician, but the translator is somebody who is okay with being a little bit uncertain. So I think all of the teachers who sound like I think it's so that imposter syndrome is so popular as in the yoga teacher world. And I actually kind of love in some ways the imposter syndrome means that you really, really care and that you don't have all the answers and you don't have all the answers. And so I would remind us that actually that's okay because a translator goes, okay, I have some education, I have some experience of varying degrees, but I'm in this kind of cool space of responding to the people in my classes in the moment. I'm not just relying and falling back on a script. I'm not just relying on the thing that feels easy. So that translator role is a little bit less comfortable at first, but the more you do it, the more confident you'll be as a teacher because you're responsive. You're responsive to the people. You're not Yeah, you're not making it more intense or again going into perfectionism for people and forcing them into doing things that they're not able or wanting to do. Again, it all comes down to these welcoming, inclusive experiences.
Yeah, it's funny because we said translator, but that could also be swapped in like people want a teacher. People want a teacher, not a technician. And when you think about what does a teacher do, they take complex ideas and they help us understand them. So it's like in your class, are you just like spouting jargon and like you said, the thing that you learned in your teacher training and you don't deviate from the script and like this is how we do it? Or are you like being responsive to your students and you're helping them like access yoga, however that looks
Yeah,
like, right?
beautiful. Yeah. So, yeah, I like that. Be a teacher, not a technician.
Number 4, students want self regulated teachers, not perfect teachers. So we've kind of talked about this in the past. The old system, and I don't want to say this was everybody, but when I think of like old school, it's like You have to be flawless at your cueing, and you're never allowed to mess up, and it has to be, like, this, like, model level pose, and you also have to be, like, super calm all the time. What are we doing in 2026?
Well, not any of that. We're still professional, as we've talked about in previous episodes, of course. We're still being professional. We show up, but not so professional we're not ourselves. Putting on that, yeah, that yoga costume, yoga teacher costume, yoga
Yoga teacher
teacher
voice.
voice. Did we? There we go. See, we knew we both went into yoga teacher voice. Yes. Right. And like, I am a yoga teacher. Meanwhile, you had just yelled at somebody who rear like almost cut you off on your way to your class. Right. And like, now I'm a yoga teacher. Like, so be professional like you would in any profession. Show up to your job, do your job. But see, that exhale that I just did was just like, that's my body and my nervous system. The moment I thought in my head, oh, letting that go, my body just went, oh. So letting go of that really unrealistic expectations. That's bullshit, my friends. You are not perfect. And I say this with the most amount of love. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. It's a fallacy. Yoga teachers don't need to be perfect. And in fact, my opinion is where the best teaching is when they see our humanity come through, when we handle mistakes like, oh crap, I totally forgot about that one side. Maybe you don't say oh crap in the class, but you handle that ability to go, whoops, okay, we forgot one side, let's backtrack, ha ha ha. And I, if somebody stops going to your class because of that, good riddance. I'm sorry, if they're looking for perfection, they're going to find those teachers who are selling it and pretending that they are. And the people who are going to continue to come back into your classes in the longevity way, and the people who see your humanity still in a professional sort of way, right? So you're grounded, you're real, you're warm, you're non-performative, you're comfortable with silence, right? Like that's kind of the qualities I think of being that self-regulated teacher. You're not better than, you're not sitting doing like you're sitting up straight deep in so-called perceived meditation while everybody walks into the class, or you're not warming up with your jump through floating whatever, like you're just like, hey everybody, you're creating community, right? It's like that's what self-regulated teacher is. So let perfection go. It does not serve us, it does not serve our students. The more we're perfectly imperfect and still professional, the better teachers will be. And that's, and one last thing with that, and that's an unspoken teaching. It's one of those things that people might not notice is happening, but that's part of creating a nervous system friendly class. That's one of the ways that you get to be that translator or that teacher rather than technician. It's the teaching of embodiment. You're embodying yourself with kindness. You're already giving yourself kindness because you're not worried about being perfect. And by you doing that work, it's going to show up in the class in an unspoken way, in an unseen way, but in a really powerful way.
1 through 4 definitely feel are, like, the kinda teaching I wanna be doing, right? Like, we, I think, often have put like, certain expectations onto yoga teachers that are quite high, and we probably don't put those same expectations onto, let's say, your fitness coach. Like, I don't expect my person helping me lift a, barbell to be a guru and calm, and, they walk in and they're telling me about their day and their kids, and I like that, right? So, which leads me to the final point. It's kind of like the sustainability of your career, and like what kind of career do you want to have as a teacher. So number 5 for us was the teachers who thrive are the ones who can sustain themselves.
Yeah, I think the sustainability, if you're really working and really can think about and integrate these 4 points that we've already said, I think that alone is going to get you into sustainability, like nervous system sustainability. You're probably going to burn out less. You're going to have more capacity for your classes. You're going to have more capacity to promote them. You're going to have more capacity to engage with your people in your classes. Like when we bring boundaries into our experience and into ourselves in all the ways, and when we prioritize less is more, less perfection, less shiny sequences that in every single class, brand new, like all these things that create pressure, that tightens me up in my body. Pressure makes me feel tight and constricted. And so when that shifts and I can go and let go of all of those things, immediately I start to feel like I'm just like my body just sinks in a good way. I'm letting go of that tight, controlled container that I've put myself in. And so sustainability, I want to still be able to give, and I want to still be able to teach and be helpful and kind and wonderful and do all the things that make a good yoga teacher, but without burning myself out. And so, yeah, putting your nervous system first. What are my boundaries? What kind of teaching? Am I teaching classes I actually don't like? Am I teaching a style of yoga that I actually have grown out of? Am I feeling stagnant in what I already know? And do I feel like I need to learn something else? So these are those reflective questions of what sustainability is. Sometimes burnout or fatigue or or if you're dramatic like me at times where I'm like, it's over, I'm done. And I'm like in my mind, I just want to ditch everything and like shut it down. I've learned that those are the times where I'm like, oh, okay, Bree, don't quit everything and burn your life down. Take a moment and see, so obviously something's not working. What's not working for you? And I think that's what's nice about like New Year's, right? So as much as it's like, oh, FOMO, as we've talked about before, and these things about like, oh, I got to change everything. There is something nice about that marking of a new year as an opportunity to be reflective and be like, well, where was I tired? Where were my leaks in my life? Where were my light leaks and my boundaries? And where can I sustain those, tighten up those leaks so it's a sustainable vessel moving forward as a teacher? So, whatever that might be, it's you to determine. And it's a really, really worthwhile practice, like longevity, not hustle, trusting yourself, trusting the timing of things. Sometimes you as a teacher, like we also might going in, it might be January for you listening to this, and you might be like, I need to ride that New Year's wave, and all my students want some sort of program, and it has to be January 1st. And wait, I'm listening to this fabulously inspiring podcast, and it's March 15th. I've missed the boat. I think and did you notice how my voice just went all like, blah, 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 blah? Like that's that spinning energy I find when I'll get caught up in that. And it's like, ugh. And then, so if this is like, they're just trust the timing of what happens. There's no magical time for you to launch the New Year's program. You can launch some sort of New Year's program in the summer. Just don't call it New Year's, right? So I'm just kind of sharing all these different things that I know so many teachers go through of pressure and storytelling and perfectionism. And it's just like, trust yourself, trust the timing of your classes, of what you want to offer, trust the timing of your phase. Again, you might be in a phase as a teacher going like, I used to teach in this way and I'm not resonating with this anymore. And I don't know what it's going to look like. And so if you're in that uncertain phase, give yourself time with that too. Give yourself time to question. You don't have to know it all. So yeah, it's really just like a lot of honoring our needs and understanding our needs and respecting and acting on those.
Yeah, I really like the idea that we're listing longevity as a skill, because I think like if you view longevity as a skill set, it puts things into perspective, right? If I continue doing this, will I still be teaching in 5 years? Yeah. So some of the things I also heard you say was, diversifying your skill set. Maybe you're teaching a class or style you don't love. Maybe that's where the burnout is coming from. It's like a simple idea, but actually so complex, and I think takes a lot of reflection, and it's a practice.
Yeah. Trusting that, yeah.
Bree, I can't believe we actually stuck to 5 points. We are so on top of it this time, which leaves me to say we have a couple extra minutes. I want to ask you one more question. Now, with your couple of decades worth of experience, if you could redo your first year of teaching with the knowledge that you have now, what would you do differently?
I started that first year teaching right out of the gate, 35 classes or something wild like that. So I would go, Bree, you're going to get burnt out. You need to not teach as many. Okay, this is a funny question because now my brain just went to three different types of answers. And in some ways, I don't think I would change a thing because it was all part of like, so answer one is I wouldn't change a thing because it was all part of my learning and journey. And I wouldn't want to take that away from 23-year-old me. That's kind of the one answer. But the more sexy podcast answer that will help everybody listening, although I think that answer will help because then, right, we trust our process. I think that was my answer. I loved this question, and I really thought I was gonna have a whole nice list of like, well, these are the things, but it's kind of a cool question to go back and I think reflective maybe for any part of our time of our life, right? The things that we thought we weren't doing good, or the things that we think we would change in retrospect, are actually quite, again, often our journeys and the very things that we needed to learn in the first place. So the hubris of like wise Brie at this age thinking that, why would I take that away? Yeah, why would I take that away from my young self?
I don't have your many decades of experience of teaching, but when I'm thinking about this coming year and like just think about how much has changed for you in 20 years as a yoga teacher. Like it's almost like an impossible question to ask because 20 years ago you couldn't have had an online studio. You couldn't have led online yoga teacher training. Like even like we did a retreat in Tuscany. Imagine how hard it would have been to organize a retreat in Tuscany. It's like an impossible question. It's almost like too great of a distance. And I think I know as humans, one thing we're awful at is knowing and predicting the future. Like we think we know. And it's just like, so I guess all I'm trying to say is I would just be super curious and open heading into 2026. Like even like things around technology have changed and also I think there's a bigger push now with AI and everything. A lot of people are missing in person, imperfection, all these things. So it's like yes, technology is changing and humans are humans and they want to feel connected. So like I think maybe be open to possibility. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, yeah. And with less pressure. Like this really sort of beautiful tension between oh, doing and being, this beautiful tension between trusting yourself and trusting the unknown. Because I think when we have, because you're right, we can't predict the future. So when we have trust in the moment, when I'm holding trust for myself in the unknown, then I feel okay because I'm not going to pretend that I know. I'm not going to jump into future casting and worry and right, like that's that perception of control. I think that's so much of like what worry is that perception of like, well, I'm going to control the future, so I'm going to pre-worry about it because I'm controlling it. But being in
Anxiety.
this, yeah, and that's what anxiety is, right? And so it's like having that beautiful, maybe that's a beautiful work because my God, won't it just infuse every part of our life of standing in the center of who we are in our body and in our life and know that we don't know. And I trust that.
I wish I could remember where I read this, but our brain is really good at confirming our choices. I read this years ago. It's like this, I can't remember what the name of the phenomenon is, right? So it's like when I am worried or whatever, whatever decision you make right now will be the right decision.
Does anybody get scared? Like when Nuala just said that, everybody listening, did anybody get scared when she said, like the mind, the habit of the mind that's just like, what?
But like think about it. Like think about like in the past, like some maybe really hard choice you had to make. The chances that you're like, yes, there are choices we will regret, but
Yeah.
we're really good at convincing ourselves that we did the right
Yeah.
thing. And I know it sounds like weird, but I just, yeah, it's like that trust. You're
Yeah.
gonna be okay.
Because that classic saying, hindsight's 2020, of course. And I think that feeds into that same fallacy of what you're talking about, because you're like, well, now I look back and it's so clear to me, had I decided something different at the time, all that shit never would have happened and I would have saved myself some time or whatever the scenario is. But you literally did not know that that was the thing, and you had all the tools in the moment to understand, like, right, like we're always making decisions with what we can in the moment. And
You can do the best you can do with the knowledge you have. It's about resiliency too, right? Like if you're building resiliency in yourself, and let's say something goes sideways, what are you gonna sit down and quit? Like I hope not. I hope you're building resiliency and you can make a, the air quotes wrong choice and you're just if you're going to keep moving forward you're going to look back in 10 years and it's how people laugh. Oh yeah, when something crazy is happening you're like, oh, we're going to look back on this and laugh. It's that.
yeah, and maybe you do end up quitting at one point, right? Because everything went sideways and you're like, and that's part of it too. You kind of like, sure, it would have saved some time if you didn't quit and had that, but right, like it's like because we like we're so presumptuous about ourselves, and and especially as teachers, and again, it comes back to that pressure. So I don't know. It's kind of this is a neat wrap up of this conversation because I think it's that this is in my opinion and experience, I feel like this is where the magic is because I see how much the mind wants all the answers, whether it's through anxiety or worry, or whether it's through like magical thinking and toxic positivity or all these things, right? Because it's like it's future casting. The mind is like, no, I'm not, I don't want to be here, because the hardest thing is to be in this moment now and sitting with the discomfort of uncertainty or sitting with the discomfort of your anxiety, or sitting in the dusk, because then if when you're sitting with your anxiety, you're sitting with the uncertainty. And that is uncertain. But guess what, my friends, as my darling cat, Bohm, dear darling friend, mindfulness teacher. Anyway, she always says the body is in the present moment. So when we can sit and start our 2026 off in uncertainty, because maybe that's also the seduction of New Year's plans, isn't it? Because I'm going to do these goals, and that gives me a sense of like a perception of security and control. Yeah, it's mitigating the uncertainty. But so we're not saying don't not do plans, but know that things could go sideways. Some crazy event can happen in your life, and there goes your goals. Could you have controlled that event? Heck no. And now you're having to go through it. And it wasn't what you planned and what you wanted, but that's also our life. So I think that's another way to go back to what you were saying with the resilience of, to me, that's resilience, is like, how are we riding through it all? Yes, I made all the plans. Yes, I had a color coded notebook that looked really nice. And here's my like goals, da 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 da. And then some, yeah, wild event happens in your life. Somebody, like whatever the things, because this is life and shit's gonna happen. So now how do I show up in this moment? And how do I show up in this moment? This is our yoga. This is our yoga.
I want to say also we see like wild events and shit happens, but I'm also like something great and unexpected could happen. Someone fabulous walks into your life and you could never have known that. You know, like there's just possibility, and sometimes being too strict. Yeah, I've written about this literally very recently for on my Substack around
Link to it, Ugla, so we can all read it.
I was like anti goal setting for the longest time because I don't think it like allows for our humanity and like the reality of how life happens. And oftentimes it's very performative. For me right now, it's like one thing at a time. I'm just going to focus on this one thing. Everything else will fall into place. And then I'll move on to the next thing because between one and two, I don't know what's going to happen. And yes, we can write goals and you can journal and all those things. But, you know, what kind of pressure are we putting on ourselves? And what are we closing ourselves off to? Oh, I can't do that because I said I'm going to do that. When the thing that walked into your life could be just better or like fun or like amazing. And you're like stuck in your rut, you know? Anyways, it wasn't in
Because
the
it wasn't in the
plan. I need to
plan
control it.
and you didn't pre-worry about it. Yes. Good point. Absolutely. Because you're right. And I think if we all sat back and thought about it, we would all have some examples of trusting. Yeah, right. So here's my negativity bias default where I'm like, oh, and something wild and horrible could happen. And you're like, and just,
It's because I did Artist Way. I swear to God, a big, big chunk of the Artist Way is synchronicity in looking for it. Looking for it. Yeah.
which is then you're in that uncertainty. So uncertainty doesn't, and that discomfort of uncertainty doesn't, yeah, it doesn't mean that it's like I'm uncertain because things could all fall apart just as much as things can all work out. And probably it will all be a bit of both.
What if we spent our days looking for good things, synchronicity, right?
And neuroscience backs that up. The patterning of the brain when you're like wiring your brain. So this isn't magical toxic positivity here. It could kind of go into that zone, but it's actually neuroscience backed up of the more we pattern towards possibility, the more we pattern to gratitude and to things that are just like what's going right, to even just little moments of awe. That's what I always love. So when I'm patterning my brain, looking out my window and there's like a beautiful colored leaf outside, and it's like just taking that moment and be like, oh, what a great leaf. That's one moment where I wasn't like, oh my God, what's going to fall apart? Like, what should I do next? And all the, right? So it's like all the layers of, and that's mindfulness, that's awareness, that's our practice. And that's how we further embody these 5 points that we started this conversation with. This is the work. This is the magic. This is the work of our life. And that's what yoga is this lifelong practice, whether you're a teacher or not.
I'm laughing because I'm like, you came for the listicle and stayed for philosophy. We did a little bait and switch.
Yeah.
Got you. Ha ha.
Yeah, totally. You wanted some quick 5 things to do?
Now we're going to make you question everything. Da-da-da. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Ula, and thank you everybody for always listening and being here with us.
I don't know what I'm linking to, but I'll leave the links in the description. We talked about a bunch of different things, so if you're curious, I'll put things in the description, and please leave a comment. And thank you, Bree.